Hey, um, just before I get into today's session itself, for those of you who are watching and you are, you know, um, ahead of time, we going into Christmas in less than, let me see, in less than 15 minutes. So, in case I forget, Merry Christmas and may you have a blessed year in 2021. Now, 2021 is just a couple of days away, and I couldn't be more excited about 2021. Particularly, I think because 2020 was a really different year, to say the least, right? Um, and 2021, 2020 actually taught me many things, and the lessons were invaluable. And it was also a great time to build the bond within the family. And so, I have nothing but gratitude for 2020. um so going into 2021, I think it's going to be tough for some of us because there are quite a fair bit of uncertainty going ahead, and particularly in the aspect of when you look at business, when you look at employment, when you just look at the economy in general. I think, most people are a little bit concerned, primarily because going forward is a little uncertain. And what I want to share today is essentially the whole idea behind um, 2021 and why you should be seriously considering live streaming as a main vehicle for you, your business, and for your clients, right? And so if you have been broadcasting live, share with me where are the channels that you have been broadcasting live on? Is it on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, or LinkedIn? Might share that with me. And also, I think what's interesting is if you are able to let me know, like, where do you which platform do you are you most comfortable in, right? I think that it's quite crucial itself. Now I want to share with you about live streaming in general. Now, live streaming, I think when it came to 2020, live streaming wasn't new because live streaming has been around for some time, right? And but what was interesting about live streaming in 2020 was it was different. And when we say it is different, what exactly we meant, or what exactly I meant, was that live streaming wasn't just a fancy way for you to get attention. In 2020, live streaming was a necessity. It was a necessity for some of the businesses that I know. It was a necessity for even some of us who earn a living doing in-person training or in-person speaking engagement, right? And so it was really a struggle for some of us, because it became not just something that it's good to have, but it's something that you have to be able to do. And I would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, when we first went into this whole live streaming thing, many of us were like maybe only 40% competent in terms of understanding, the tech, as well as the way that live streaming should take place. So, take for example, you might not pay attention to the frame rate. You might not pay attention to what resolution you are live streaming at prior to 2020. right? But today, in today's context itself, you be concerned, or you ought to be concerned about frame rate. You ought to be concerned about what resolution are you live streaming at. So, for example, on YouTube itself, I insist that I have to stream at 1080p. And for the other platform, of course, I because of the limitations of those platforms itself, I'm just not able to stream at 1080p. But for YouTube, I definitely want to stream at 1080p because anything less than that was just not acceptable. And so that led to a series of things. One, of course, is that it requires a better hardware, and it also requires a better software to be able to do that. Now, I can get into the hardware part, I can get into the software part, but if you got a question about what kind of software it's really really good, and what kind of hardware it's necessary to just get started and to be able to do it professionally, make sure you drop it in the comments. Your questions, drop them in the comments, and I will definitely, read every comment itself and answer them either on the show, or if you're watching this on the replay, then I still read the comments even after that, and I will answer your questions when I see those questions itself. Right. So there are three groups of people that I notice. Some of them I have been working directly. Yeah. So the three groups of category of people who have taken on live streaming in 2020. So the first group are what I call brands, right? And these are the well-known brands itself. They have the bandwidth, they have the expertise, or if they do not have the expertise, they have the ability to engage the expertise to be able to do things like that for them. And so, one of them was my client, Steinway and Sons here in Singapore, because in 2020 they were organizing the Steinway Youth Piano Competition, or SYPC for short. And this is the fifth competition that they conduct every other year. And of course, at the beginning of the year, we were all prepping for the physical in-person competition. But when COVID hit, they had to do the switch very quickly, and to be able to also encourage and make sure that the participants are able to stream their participation in the competition itself. So it was really something that was unprecedented, and I'm glad to say that these people at Steinway and Sons was able to pull it off, and did it very very well, right? So that's one group of people who, because of COVID, had to turn to live streaming as the only option at a point in time, right? Because otherwise it would mean delaying the competition, and where there is even no end in sight, right? So that's one category, right? The brands. Now the second category are the category of small businesses. And here we're just talking about live streaming. We're not talking about digital payments or digital way of getting their products to the customers. So, I remember reading this McKinsey report where they say that at the beginning of the lockdown in Wuhan, this particular small business realized that no one's going to be able to come out, and the way that people are going to shop is going to be very very different. And so this business owner took to live streaming as the only alternative available to him in order to bring the store to the customers. So instead of waiting for people to come and um, recognizing the fact that people are not able to come to his store, he brought the store to the people. And in the report itself, he mentioned that his sales during that period of lockdown, in fact, was even more than what he earned in 2019. And so this is another group of people who force into a corner. It's either they do something about it or they are going to perish. And these people will were fast enough to be able to embrace what's available to them, and yet to be able to make sure that their goals are still met, right? And so that in strategic thinking, we call that intelligent opportunism, right? They were able to identify that, hey, this is going to be a problem because people are not going to be able to come to my shop. Why don't I bring my shop to them via live streaming? And that was a phenomenal idea. I mean, like he said, right, that during the period of lockdown, his sales was more than the combined sales of 2019, whereby people were coming into his store. So the second category are your small businesses. Now, the third category of people who took to live streaming, and this is more of a demand side rather than a supply side. And this third group of people who took to live streaming were actually learning and development department. And because because of the lockdown, and it's not just in Singapore but it's worldwide, many companies were forced to use tools like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx, for example, as the main platform to conduct virtual meetings, as well as to do onboarding, to do training, to do product training, to do SOP, and whether it's in-house training or even external training itself, right? And and so these people saw the need that they have to get the people up to speed really, really quickly. And I mean really, really quickly. Like, they would need someone to be able to guide them to use WebEx, Cisco WebEx proficiently and effectively, and also to be able to identify for them, what is the differentiating factor between WebEx, MS Teams, as well as Zoom. And so in that aspect, so they really need to get the people up to speed really, really quickly. So more from the demand side, and of course, for when the project came to me, I was comfortable. Like I say, I was comfortable in doing live streaming and to be able to use the various tools that I have, the hardware as well as the software, to help this company and their staff to realize why they should be using an MS Teams and what is it good for, why they should be using Cisco WebEx, what is it good for, and why should they be using, Zoom, and what should they be using it for. And and in the process itself, I realized one thing, that it's so important. And that one thing that's so important is that unless in 2020, unless if you are a speaker, trainer, coach, for example, and you are not able to use videos or live videos, right? Synchronous training, for example, you are not able to use that effectively and to be able to use it masterfully, you know, I think 2020 is going to be a huge struggle for you, right? So if you have been using, live streaming software, share with me what is your favorite live streaming software, right? And so, in 2021, there are already indications here, but I think you ought to know by now that in 2021, live streaming is going to be even more important than ever before. So let's talk about it from the supply side, right? The supply side is that you are going to get many people who, arguably because of COVID-19, had to turn to, live streaming, synchronous training, and, virtual speaking to deliver the content. And these people got up to speed really, really quickly, primarily because they were already comfortable in front of the camera. And plus, they were also able to procure the necessary resources to help them achieve that outcome itself. Right. So these people really, I mean, they just took advantage of the situation, bought the necessary hardware, and boom, they off to the races. And so on the supply side, if you and I do not have the skills to be able to do live streaming or synchronous training effectively, masterfully, elegantly, and proficiently, then I think, you're going to be in trouble in 2021 going forward, right? So that's the supply side. Now, on the demand side, increasingly, people are going to say that, well, it's silly for me to want to shop the way I used to shop pre COVID 19. And many people are going to demand that, I want to be able to shop the way I like to shop, right? So, as an example, it's like, curbside pickup, it's going to be really, really popular. Click and collect, it's going to be something that is going to be very popular. In fact, that is something that even for me, I am willing to pay a premium just to use a click and collect service as opposed to standing in line and waiting for my coffee. Truth be told, I mean, I paid, a premium just so that I can skip the queue and I'm able to do whatever I want to. And once, I pass by the store itself, I can just pick up my coffee and go. And so many of the ways that we shop is going to be different. And because of that, that's going to drive demand from small businesses. It's going to drive demand from large businesses. It's going to drive demand from brands to be able to use and hire, agencies and talents to be able to use live stream in a way that it's going to be able to benefit them, right? And so once again, from a demand side, there's going to be a huge demand on for services on live streaming itself. So if you are not able to either teach people or you are not able to know where to look for agencies or talent or KOLs or influencers to be able to help your business in that respect itself, or if you yourself are not able to do that, then you are going to be at a disadvantage in 2021, right? And so, all said and done, how do we, how do we, you know, deploy this? How do we implement this thing itself? Now, in the past, when I talk about video, I always talk about the two aspect of democratization, right? One aspect is it's not just the democratization of video production because these days we all have a video camera and arguably a very very good one in our pocket already, right? That is something that we already have. We are able to use it and we can do it on the go. Some of us are more comfortable than others, and some of us are better than others in using that, right? So the cost of production in the past, you probably need like lights, you need like, DSLR or video camera to be able to do that. These days, you have it in your phone, you can just flip it up and just go, right? So the production cost of video has come down tremendously. Now, the other aspect that sometimes people forget is the distribution cost. Now, with distribution cost, essentially what we're looking at is that, once you've created your video, where are you going to get how are you going to get to the people that you want to reach? And so in the past, unless you have access to like TV station or radio station, your distribution channels are going to be quite limited. But in today's context, we all have access to social media, and for those of us who are willing to invest some money into promoting our content itself, our content can go even further, right? And more interestingly, to be able to reach the very people who are going to be interested in what you have to say. And so the distribution part has come down tremendously, and now it kind of gives everyone equal access to distribution itself, right? You do not need a network, you do not need a TV channel, you do not need to have a studio to do that. You can do it anywhere, and you can literally just distribute it yourself, and even at no cost at all, right? I mean, you don't have to pay just to upload your video on YouTube. But then there's one more thing that people forget when it comes to a video, particularly in live streaming. Now, live streaming, because of the fact that many of the social media are going to be paying attention to live streaming as a content, because they simply just want to get people to stay longer in the on that platform itself. And so the only way, or the best way, to get people to do that is to have engaging content. And if you are able to create engaging content in live format, then you are going to get that level of reach that otherwise you will not be able to get with regards to a blog post or a text post or an image post, for example, right? And so on the platform side, it is favoring live video because of the fact that they are more engaging, right? And speaking of engagement, that's the other factor that live video have over even recorded videos, text posts, or image, or even a podcast. Engagement, right? Because through the whole live stream itself, you are actually able to engage with your audience, and to be able to talk to them, and get them to answer a question. You can even start off your live stream, if you're well prepared enough. You can even start off your live stream in a way like a choose your own adventure activity itself. So, like for instance, for me, when I do my synchronous training, because now I am able to get people from literally all walks of life and anywhere in the world to come to my training itself, it became really, really interesting, because I'm able to ask them to answer a few questions right off the start. And then, because of the fact that it's virtual, and there are certain tools and certain tips that I do to kind of replicate myself when it comes to synchronous training itself. And because of those tips and strategies, I am able to get their attention. I'm able to get them to, customize and personalize the kind of content and training for them. So, putting all this together, the main thing that you want to take note is that live streaming is going to be key. Now, the question is, how are you going to be using live streaming, right? How are you going to be using live streaming? So leave in the comment for me. Let me know, hey, are you going to be using live streaming, and how are you going to be using live streaming? I think that's the more important question itself, right? Once again, if you got questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions pertaining to live streaming, as well as how you could use it to leverage it as a strategy for your business. Speak to me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. And with that, once again, oh, we have went into 25th December. So Merry Christmas, everyone. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye, and have a good one. Bye bye.